What I'm being told by sources who are aware of what was communicated to the Canadian government today from the United States, it wasn't just the tariffs, it wasn't just the ultimatum on fentanyl. There was also a warning that if Canada retaliates, the tariffs will increase. So there is a preemptive strike, or at least in terms of a message to the Canadian government, that if it retaliates with the targeted tariffs that it has been planning to, then the percentages will go up. This is something the president said. Remember when we were watching the video of him speaking in the Oval Office yesterday, he says the tariffs may go up, maybe not. He sort of floated it out there. Well, it's been communicated, I'm told, to the Canadian government that if there is a retaliation of any kind, then the U.S. will increase its trade action against this country. Now, that puts them in a very difficult position. I mean, what choice do you have but to retaliate? But you can see there the extent that the Trump administration, at least verbally, is willing to go to get whatever it is that it wants out of this. If it truly is just about fentanyl or the reshaping of North American manufacturing and trade arrangements and global trade in general, but certainly to hit your biggest customer and most reliable trading partner with a tariff like this over 19 kilograms of fentanyl as the stated reason, and threaten to go even higher should you try to defend yourself and pick up for your own economy, is the situation that we're in. The Prime Minister is going to meet with the premiers at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, as you just said. The expectation is we may hear from the Prime Minister at around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The expectations, though, keep sliding on things. We had been hearing 2 o'clock. We'd hear from the President on what they're doing. That's now sliding until later in the day. And of course, everything we are hearing and everything that has been communicated to Canada right now is just in verbal form. And they are not going to say anything publicly and officially until they see it in written form and with the legal weight of whatever action the president is taking behind it.
What is when you are faced with that kind of, I'm not even sure what to call it, I guess it's a threat. When you're faced with that kind of threat, what is the government thinking? Because the idea that we could not respond, I think, is unimaginable. Although you and I discussed whether it would be as huge as what the president is doing. But when you are faced with a threat of a counter to your counter, what is the thinking inside the government right now about that?
I don't know, to be honest with you, Rosie, and that they're kind of not really willing to engage in the thought process until they know for sure what's going on. But, you know, I think they'll get some clarity on the appetite of how to respond from the premiers when they meet with them at 4 o'clock. I think there is going to be an appetite by Canadians to have some sort of a response rather than just take it and lying down. But how far you go in terms of the damage you inflict on your own economy by retaliating to this, and then knowing that an act, because there's been such a lack of specifics and a lack of response from the federal government to this point. You know, the criticism is, why aren't you out there? Why aren't you standing up for Canada the way Doug Ford is doing and Daniel Smith is doing, depending on who you think is the right path? It's precisely because they didn't want to provoke something until they had to, right? And that there's, by doing something, you know, for domestic political concerns and, you know, to satisfy the media cycle would antagonize the president or the people around him to you know, move the goalposts or raise the stakes yet again. So they've avoided it, and now you have to calibrate again with this threat that, like, this is a catastrophic assault on the Canadian economy with the threat to make it more so. And I just don't know if there's anything in the trade relations playbook that contemplates the President of the United States being this manifestly unreasonable and threatening to the Canadian economy. I mean, how do you prepare for something like this?
You go to school.
You know, they've got their border plan. They've got, you know, people in the United States, you know, Susan Collins of Maine, Kevin Kramer of North Dakota, Rand Paul of Kentucky, you know, coming out against tariffs or speaking in favor of Canada's position that we're too dependent on each other and it'll hurt everybody and this is pointless, and saying don't do this. But, you know, if Donald Trump, who is at Mar-a-Lago today, is so intent on upending this trade relationship for this singular purpose of dealing with the fentanyl flows, and is willing to go even higher should Canada stand up for itself, it's an impossible situation for a prime minister and a government to
It's
be
not.
in, just given the competitive disadvantage you have as a country of 40 million people going up against the most powerful economy in the history of the world.
School of Economics, man.